Hi everyone, my name's Daniela. I usually make a big Facebook status about the books that I read every month. So this month I've decided to make a video instead because I think that's much more fun to watch than reading a huge amount of text where I try and squash everything I want to say into like 3 lines. So this is going to be about the books I read in June, even though it's the end of July now. I only read 3 books in June. And also, this is my first video, and I have no idea how to edit these things, because that's not my forte at all. So I'm just going to film from start to finish, and hopefully I won't make too many mistakes, and if I do, then you'll see all of them. So here goes. The first book I read in June was called American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I don't actually have it here, but I did us all a favour of printing off the pictures of what they look like. This is what American Gods looks like. This is a book that ends up on a lot of must-read book lists, and I don't necessarily think it deserves that spot. Neil Gaiman is a great author, but I don't think this book really took the cake in any sort of way. It had a really great concept, and that is that everyone who sort of migrated to America brought with them the gods of their old cultures. And now these gods live in America, but they're becoming redundant because no one believes in them anymore, and they don't worship them or sacrifice to them. And these gods are slowly dying out. And all of a sudden there's these new gods as well, gods of money and electronics and TV and casino. And you find out that there's a war building between the old gods and the new gods. And it's based on the storyline of a character called Shadow, who you meet at the beginning of the book, just as he's released from prison, actually. And very shortly after, and he's about to see his wife, who he loves so much and hasn't seen in 3 years. And when you find out that he's being released in prison just as she's died in a car crash. And not only has she died in a car crash, but she died in a car crash with the husband of their best couple friend, and that they'd been having an affair. So he's pretty heartbroken. He's approached on a plane by this mysterious character who will only reveal his name as Wednesday. And it's about them trying to get the old gods together who don't usually like each other and don't really like Wednesday either, and them trying to create a sort of army to take on the new gods. It's pretty interesting. I didn't think it was that compelling. I didn't think it was like so incredible that I couldn't put it down, which a lot of people sort of talk it up to be. I only gave it 2.5 stars. It's a great concept, wasn't a particularly amazing story. The next book I read was a book called Reasons She Goes to the Woods. It looks like that, by Deborah Davies. This is a really disturbing novella. It's actually got a really interesting format, and it's all these vignettes, I think. It's snapshots. Is only 1 page per passage, really, and they're just snapshots of her life. And each one has a title about this girl who the novel is based on, about reasons why she goes to the woods, because you find out that this girl runs away to the woods near her home pretty frequently, and there's a lot of disturbing reasons for that. And you find out that she has a mother who's really neglectful and quite abusive and has a lot of mental disorders, and this girl grows up with a lot of strange ideas about how family works and how relationships work. And it has a lot of really disturbing themes, like really underage child sexuality and abuse and violence. And the girl is quite disturbed, and she has a lot of really strange relationships with the people around her and really strange ideas. It was really compelling. I wouldn't recommend you pick it up unless you're ready for a very strange read, but really well executed as well. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read in June was a book called The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Clair, which is a pen name, and it looks like that. This story is about a character called Harry called Harry August, and he has this disturbing condition of reliving his life over and over and over again. And when he dies, he just goes back to the start of his life and relives it. And the sort of starting point for the story is that he receives a message, and there's other people who are also like him, and there's a group of people who all have this condition of reliving their lives over and over again. And he receives a message from a young girl just as he's on his deathbed in one of his lives, and she tells him that the end of the world is getting closer. That is, each generation, the end of the world is happening sooner. And he's essentially tasked, or he believes that he's tasked, with trying to fix that and trying to stop the end of the world getting closer. And it's about his relationship with the other people who have this condition, in particular one man called Victor. Harry and Victor meet, and Harry doesn't originally know that Victor has this condition. And you find out pretty soon that Victor is sort of the catalyst for the end of the world. But what's strange is that Harry and Victor, have this incredibly intense relationship where Victor essentially seduces Harry, not in a sexual way, into helping him actually bring about the end of the world closer and closer. And Victor is quite intent on making this happen, and he makes Harry forget everything that he's told him at the end of each of his lives with something called a forgetting, or at least he tries to. And I've already revealed way too much of the book, but Harry and Victor keep returning to each other in each of their lives, even though Harry knows that Victor is trying to do this terrible thing to him by making him forget everything about each of his lives, and Victor knows that he's just going to take advantage of Harry's intellect, which is what attracts him to Harry in the first place, and then at the end of his life do this terrible thing to him. And despite them both knowing this, they keep coming back to each other time after time after time. And it's a little bit tragic in that sense, because they're both working to betray the other, and yet they can't live really without going in search of the other and finding them and having that companionship in their life that nobody else suffices for. So that was the strongest point of the book. I thought it was a really great concept. It wasn't executed so well. I didn't think it was particularly plausible, the whole end of the world scenario. It felt a little bit like this author had this great idea about multiple lives and messages being relayed back from one generation to another, and was like, how can I convey this in a way that gives me a story, and just chucked it in to be like the end of the world. And yeah, it wasn't that compelling. It didn't really seem particularly feasible, the whole thing, but I liked the idea. I only gave it 2.5 stars. And that's all the books I read for June. I only read 3 books because I was working on my thesis at the time. But stay tuned for July books. See you then.